Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Melnick, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the 12th Annual Pre-Medical and Pre-Health Professions National Conference here at UC Davis. So I just wanted to say just kind of a quick kind of sort of housekeeping thing. As people are coming in, please, sit down quietly and try not to make too much noise. Okay. I'd first like to thank the AAMC for sponsoring this event and making the online portion of this conference possible and accessible to all. Next, I'd like to introduce our very first keynote for today. It's going to be Dr. David Fleming. Dr. Fleming is from the University of Missouri, where he's received nearly all of his academic, career. He's finished his undergraduate degree, medical school training, and residency training at the university. To finish it all off, he's also professor at the University of Missouri School of Medicine, where he's also the chair of the Department of Medicine, and is also the director of the MU Center for Health Science. Okay. Dr. Fleming is also a longtime fellow for the American College of Physicians, or ACP, which is the largest medical specialty organization in the United States. He was governor for the Missouri chapter of the ACP, has been chair of the ACP's Board of Governors, and is currently the president of this prestigious organization. So without further ado, I'd like all of you to welcome Dr. Fleming to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you for that gracious welcome. I also want to thank you for being here. This is one of the larger audiences I've had the opportunity to speak before, and perhaps one of the most energetic. I guess I want to thank you for your interest in healthcare in this particular time in our history. This is a time of transformation in healthcare. There's a lot happening out there, a lot of good things, many challenges, and you are going to be able to wrap yourself around every bit of that as you move forward in this. I also want to show my appreciation for being part of this faculty. You've got an incredible, high-quality faculty who's going to be speaking to you and who has been speaking to you. Dr. Ross Lee, who's going to be following me, and others have been true pioneers and leaders in healthcare in our country. So listen to them well. Aside from me, they have a lot of good things to say. What I want to do today is tell you my story in the brief time that we have together. And I know it's brief, so I'm going to try to make my points succinct. I'm going to begin, though, by giving you a disclaimer in terms of who I am and what I'm about. I've done a lot of things. I'm over the age of 60 now, so by definition, I'm an old guy. And I've been through a lot. I've seen a lot. But as I reflect back on where I began, which is before where you are right now, I was not that good of a student. In fact, in many ways, I consider myself now a recovering above average student before I started university. I did not get into medical school the first time I tried. It took work for me. I had to rise to the occasion to make that happen. But it did happen. Some doors opened for me. A brass ring or two passed by. I reached out and grabbed it, and it worked. Yes, there was some luck involved. I happened to be in the right place at the right time for many of the things that I'm doing. When people stopped, paused, asked me to step up and take leadership positions, I did it, and most of the time, it has been the right decision for me. And there are going to be 2 or 3 points of wisdom that I'm going to try to impart to you today based on my story that I hope will land and will help you in the decisions that you have to make in the years to come, because it's going to be years that you're going to be dealing with this. In fact, it'll be the rest of your life. When you engage in whatever health profession, whether it be medicine, nursing, or one of the occupational physical therapies, or social work, whatever that may be, dentistry, pharmacy, you are going to be challenged along the way. And there are going to be times when you are going to be questioning the decision that you made. There are going to be times when you're going to be thinking, maybe I should be going in a different direction. And those are going to be times when you're going to need to reach deep and think about who you are, what you're about, and the commitment that you're going to make in the profession that you're going to be undertaking. I've been, as the introduction indicated, I spent pretty much all of my time in Missouri, with some exception. Now, right now, as a president of the ACP, I'm flying around the country. I'm spending very little time in Missouri, actually, which I'm reminded of when I go back. But I have an opportunity to do a lot of international travel and also U.S. travel. But I began at the university in the 1960s in undergraduate work, evolved into medical school, residency training, and did my chief residency all at the University of Missouri. Each point along the way, as I was making decisions about what I needed to do and what I thought was in my best interest, in the best interest of my profession that I was pursuing, I always challenged myself as to, is this the right thing? Should I be going someplace else? Should I be experiencing other academic environments? And each time I felt that I was in the right place and doing the right thing. And I think it turned out the way I wanted it to. I ended up, actually, my intent was to do primary care, which is to say, both as an internal medicine physician or a family physician or as a pediatrician, I was planning on returning to my hometown and doing primary care and internal medicine, which I did. I actually went back in 1980 after I finished my chief residency, after 4 years of residency training, which is the 4 years you take after 4 years of medical school. I'd actually spent about 14 years at the University of Missouri by that time. Long time. I re-engaged with my community. One of the reasons I did that is because I had a legacy of healthcare in my community that was laid by my great uncle, Tom Fleming, and my father, J. Will Fleming, both of whom were internists. They had a huge influence on my life. They were mentors for me from a very early age. And I spent close to 20 years in that practice. It was fabulous. That was back when a community physician could do what community physicians do. I took care of my patients. I worked long hours. I took care of them in the clinic as well as in the hospital. I was on call every third or fourth night. I spent many nights in the hospital taking care of very ill patients, and it was fabulous. Somewhat exhausting at times, but the commitment paid off. And for me, it was the right thing to do. About 20 years into my profession, when I was finished with training and I was an internist and I was actually out there practicing, I was influenced by another mentor, actually two other mentors, one of which was at the University of Missouri, another of which was at a different university at Georgetown. And I had developed an interest in biomedical ethics. And most of this related to end-of-life issues and the fact that I did not feel we were taking very good care of patients who were dying. And in fact, I made the decision at that time to grab the brass ring, which came my way. I was offered an opportunity to do a fellowship at Georgetown University, which I did, and that changed my course dramatically in terms of what I was doing. In fact, when I returned to Missouri following that, which I wasn't sure I was going to do, I found that my interest was no longer in community medicine in terms of practicing that. What I wanted to do was practice medicine in an academic center and teach bioethics and teach internal medicine and immerse myself with students, residents, and learners, which I did. And that was in 2001. And from that point, I built a Center for Health Ethics at the University of Missouri. I immersed myself in student and resident education. And ultimately, 7 years ago, I was given the opportunity to take the chair of medicine, which I did. And the brass ring came by once again, and the dean asked me to take that leadership role, and I did it with some trepidation. Being a chair and a dean and being in leadership in healthcare these days is not what it's cracked up to be. It's not necessarily everything that it has been in the past because of the administrative responsibilities and much of the change that's occurring in healthcare. But it was a dramatic shift for me under those circumstances. It was a few years later that the American College of Physicians asked me to participate in leadership, and I stepped into that role as well. And one of the problems is I never gave anything up as I was adding these leadership roles that were coming. The one thing I'm very proud of is that I never gave up patient care in that process. What had grounded me, what had held me in place was my role as a physician, my role as a healthcare provider, my profession, the promise that I had made to care and nurture patients, especially the most vulnerable patients. And I had chosen to do that in internal medicine. So my story has been one of a little bit different, perhaps a little more circuitous than others that have taken a similar path in years past. So there are a few things I've learned from this, and I would like to share this with you. And you can take this and use it. You can do what my kids have tended to do and, ignore it until much later in their life when they realize that, in fact, it was pretty good information for them, pretty good advice. So you can either be my kids right now, or you can, well, whatever. Good kids. By the way, I have 6 grandkids, which is strongly influencing me right now, so that also is playing a role. So the one piece of wisdom I would like to share with you is the critical importance of good mentoring. And what I'm talking about here is seeking and offering mentoring in the years that you have before you. You probably don't realize it now, but you are mentoring now. You probably have developed mentoring relationships with some people in this room, with professors that you have worked with former teachers, with former students, with others that you have guided. Mentoring relationship is one of trust. It's one of shared trust, where you seek and you offer guidance, and you share a trajectory together. It's one that forms naturally. It's very much like a physician-patient relationship, or a nurse-patient relationship, or a healer-patient relationship. It's one that evolves and becomes in and of itself. It's hard to make it happen. You can seek it, but sometimes it doesn't always land. My mentors included my family. Perhaps my key mentor has been my wife, who is the smartest person I know, and who is the one who is never afraid to call the question, like, what are you thinking about? Why would you do that? Or there's no way you're going to do that. The strength I would have to have in those circumstances is to step back and listen to that and be able to absorb it. Other key mentors have been my former chairman, who actually, after being chair of medicine at the University of Missouri for 14 years, joined me in practice after I went into practice. He was there with me for about 6 years, which was a phenomenal experience. Observing somebody I revered and still do, even though he has passed, and observing the transformation that occurred from somebody who was intellectually profoundly gifted, an incredible teacher, very knowledgeable, amazing at the bedside in his teaching skills, but who was able to transform into something that he had never been, which was a practicing community physician. And it was at that moment when he walked through that door and joined me in partnership that I became his mentor, that he looked to me to provide guidance for the practice that he was building in the next phase of his professional career. And we shared that relationship for many years to come. You will find mentorship in places you don't expect it. Your patients will be your mentors. Your students will be your mentors. Those that you think you have control over, maybe even your children, will be your mentors. They will provide wisdom and guidance. Mentors will call the question in terms of decisions that you are making and help you move in directions that you've did not realize were open to you or available to you or even appropriate to you necessarily. So the importance about mentoring is to be open to that. Be open to the process of that relationship, which is a process of vulnerability, which will allow you to enter in and them to enter into your life in a shared relationship that will last forever. Even if you don't see them the rest of your life, the mentoring relationship will last forever. I mentioned grabbing the brass ring. There were 2, 3, or 4 times in my life when the brass ring came by. And there were times I didn't realize it was a brass ring until after I'd grabbed that opportunity. Because remember the brass ring, you're going on a Ferris wheel, you're going around and it pops out and you have to grab it as you're going by. If you miss it, that's the only opportunity that you have. There will be times in your lives when suddenly an opportunity will open up. And you may not realize the depth of that opportunity until you actually step into it, where you take the risk of stepping into a situation that your gut and your heart feels is the right thing to do. Now, it may not always be the right decision. There's going to be some fearlessness that you're going to have to incorporate into your being as a healthcare professional. Fearlessness, not hubris. It's not arrogancy. It's not about ego. It's about not being afraid to do the right thing. And that's what I'm talking about. Be prepared. Always be in the blocks. Be ready to see those opportunities as they come. When somebody steps up and asks you to add one more thing to an already very busy schedule that has a lot of responsibility and will have a lot of individuals seeking your guidance. So the third thing is related to this, and I know this one very, very well, and that is the importance of always being able to find a way to land on your feet. Find a way to land on your feet. Because you're going to be rolled every once in a while. You're going to fail. You're not going to be successful at everything you do. Someone's going to turn to you and say no when you are wanting to do something. And it may be a big hit. It may be a large hit, enough to make you want to change the direction that you're taking in your profession, in your personal life, or your professional life. Landing on your feet is a metaphor for always being prepared to take another direction and doing it with strength. Now, how do you do that? I can't really tell you how to do that. Being prepared, being knowledgeable, always being ready to step into those blocks and do what needs to be done. Being prepared to not get that office that you are running for. Being prepared not to get that academic advancement that you are seeking. Being prepared not to get accepted to your health profession school when you apply to it. And making a decision that I'm just going to work that much harder. I'm going to become a recovering above average student. And doing it well. Doing it with aplomb. Doing it with dignity. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of fun stuff that you're going to be doing. And there's a lot of hard work that's going to be ever-ending, never-ending, ever-present. My parting comment to you is that you are in the process of making a profession right now. You are making a decision about entering into hallowed ground in many ways, whatever that may be. Because there are going to be individuals that you will have responsibility for as a result of your training, your skill, the letters after your name, the position that you have, the very powerful position that you will have as a healthcare provider. And there's a huge amount of responsibility for that. And as I tell my students and medical students, when you walk through that threshold of whatever health professions school that is, whatever training program you do, a mantle is put on your shoulders. And that is a mantle of profession where you have made a promise to serve others beyond yourself. Now, this is sounding kind of highfalutin, I know, but I will tell you that this is very real. And you can't get rid of that mantle. That's with you for life. You are branded for life. It's a good brand. It's a good place to be. Serving others is like no other commitment you can make. And being able to serve them immediately and chronically, whatever the need may arise. So I would encourage you to welcome that mantle. I would encourage you to seek wisdom and offer wisdom through your mentoring. And please land on your feet. Thank you very much.